y'all, it's Denise, and I am back in my studio, in my corner of the studio at 5 Art, and I've been busy cleaning up my space, getting my art stored, cleaning out my storage cabinets, all that stuff you like to do at the end of the year. And along with that, I've come across quite a few canvases of pieces that I've kind of randomly been working on and off, and haven't really come to a finished piece. So I painted right over them, and you'll see as I go through this video how I did that, and I'll explain, I'll walk you through and talk through it as the video plays. Mainly it is, you can struggle with a piece and it's just nothing's ever gonna happen. Or maybe you change your style, which is my case. I wanted to do something different going into the new year. I haven't really decided or found what that's going to be, but I need time to explore. So what better place to do that on an old piece of art? So as you'll see, these 4 pieces, as we get into the video, you'll see how they started out and the process, the steps that I'm taking to turn them into something else that I'm not even sure what yet. I'm kind of keeping myself open and just letting it show up for me, which is kind of the direction I want to go in. I want my art to kind of find me, kind of pique my curiosity, kind of tempt me to come in. And instead of looking around and being influenced about what's happening outside, I'm letting what is influencing inside be the engine that's running this show. Anyway, I know we all have pieces we want to cover over, and I know we're scared to do it, and sometimes we just throw the piece away rather than do something new with it. I hate to waste things. If I have a canvas, it's going to turn into something. I very rarely throw them away. They just add to the history and the layers in a piece of art that is soon to be, that is yet to be. So with that all being said, these are the 4 pieces I'm going to be working on in the next week or so. I've got them to this point right now, and let me just show you how I got them there. A couple of the other artists in the studio have come in and said, oh yeah, this is done. Oh yeah, that's done. They're not done, because I kind of have an idea in my head of what I want the final feeling to be. So yeah, that's it. So stick with me, and we'll go through this. And as always, you've watched YouTube long enough to know everybody says hit the like, subscribe, and join me. I'm here weekly Saturday mornings in my studio sessions, and that's all about what I'm working on. My name is Denise Serro. I'm a San Diego artist, and anything else you want to find out about me is down in the description. Any supplies that I think you need to know about in the videos that I make, or just supplies that I use on a regular basis, there's also links to that in my shop in the description. And yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to be home. It's good to be back in the studio. So let's get down to covering up those canvases. Okay, so this series of paintings I did over a year ago. I started over a year ago to use them as demos in a workshop that I was doing. And I always thought I would get back to them, which I did on a few of the pieces, and I kind of liked the direction they were going. I really liked this one, but it's been too long, and when I took another look, I am going in a completely different direction. So I didn't really want to spend a lot of time figuring out where they were going to go next. Instead, I decided to just cover over them. And I know that's a scary thing to think about for a lot of people, because everything is, it's a piece of art. You did it, you worked on it, you put your talent, your creativity into it. But sometimes it's just blocking your creativity more than moving it forward. So I find the best thing to do is get them up on the wall and just paint over them. You don't have to make everything go away. it's good to look at a canvas and pick out 1, 2, maybe 3 things that you really, really like, and just paint around those things and let them stand out and let everything else fall behind. Now, that doesn't mean you can't cover those up as you go, but keep them there for now until you move on to see really where you want it to go. So that's what I did with these 4 pieces. There are certain things I really liked that stood out to me, and I kept those. And then as I went along, I kind of refined it and added a second coat, and I was using gesso. I started out using gesso to make sure that my paint was going to stick to the pieces that had already been done a year ago. And then I used a white, actually a off-white chalk paint to finish up the second coat. Now I'm kind of looking at each painting and maybe changing the orientation. As these started out to be florals, I was having a hard time not seeing florals. So I just moved them, changed the orientation, and now I'm ready for a fresh start. So I've got my canvases and I've got them covered up, painted over. Now I'm taking just some paint, some acrylic paint medium, because I want the colors that I put over to be transparent. Now I'm going to treat each of these paintings as each one differently. I'm going to do a different color palette on each one. So this process that I'm doing right here, that is a color, transparent color over everything, does a couple of things. The first thing it does is it will harmonize everything on the canvas, all the colors on the canvas, and harmonizes them to go together. So I'm starting out pretty light on this one because I wasn't exactly sure where I was going to go, but I did know I wanted it to be a little bit more neutral, and I don't want these pieces to be quite so colorful. I have in my mind that there'll be more cream and off-white when I get done. So for right now, it doesn't matter what I do. I can be sloppy, I can be messy, I can experiment, and that is one of the most important things that this process gives you, opportunities that it offers you, is you can just be messy. You can experiment. You can try out something new that you've been thinking about, but don't really want to do it on a piece that you're not sure you want to dive in and do that with. So this is a great place to do that. I have a piece of parchment paper that was laying on my chair, so I want to see what kind of textures I can get with that, just laying it over and smooshing it into the paint, pulling it off and seeing what kind of textures I can get. And if I like them, fantastic. If I don't, then it's not a big deal to just grab a rag, grab a cloth, and wipe it out. Because it's something I can always put back in. I know how to do that. I can put it back in. But I don't know if I want quite that much texture. So let me get that wiped out. And then see where I want to go with it next. And I'm just using a pencil and just writing. This is a good spot, good time to go ahead and write out your thoughts and write out anything. Thoughts that come in your mind that you've kind of wanted to work on. In this case, I had the radio going, so I think I was singing along with this, so it's really good that I turned off the sound. And I wrote out some of the lyrics on this piece, which will be kind of fun because if I remember what they were, that could be the title for this piece of art as I go along. And mark making, scribbling is really, really fun. It's one of my favorite things to do on a piece of art. It just gives you a place to be loose and free and easy. And you never know what of that will show up in the final painting, but you want to give yourselves plenty of opportunities to have things show up, to have enough information on that canvas that when you do go over to add more layers, once again, you will decide what stays and what goes. Another thing that was really, really working for me is I pulled out a spatula and just started scraping over the paint. And what showed up, which I wasn't aware of would happen, or I didn't think would happen, is the paint was not sticking really well to some of the papers that I'd put down. Most of the surface, it stuck really well because I used gesso, but I loved in the areas that it didn't, and when I scratched over it with my spatula, it actually pulled a lot of the paint up and left a really scratchy textured finish on it, and I really, really enjoy that. So I'm gonna really, really speed it up to go through these next 3 pieces because it'll just give me a few minutes to talk a little bit more about all the cool stuff that shows up. I had a lot of texture and a lot of glue down papers already on these 4 canvases, and they really are working in my favor. I didn't sand them down. They will somehow become part of the final pieces and become part of the history of these 4 pieces. Now, hopefully, I can get them to each look individual and stand on their own. I'm really not wanting to create a complete series, but I am using most of the same elements, and I used a Posca pen to write right over what I had already done. I added more papers in. It gave me a chance to add some more papers into the pieces I was working on. But the main thing is have fun, and have fun. Just have fun. Don't beat yourself up. Don't worry about the outcome, the final outcome. Those are the pieces that usually turn out the best when you're just enjoying the process and doing it. So this is where I started out and where I've ended up so far. Probably about 75% of what I've done so far will eventually be covered up, and I'm pretty happy with that. And meanwhile, I'm going to take a little stroll down the studio, the barracks hallway, down to my friend Susie Zoll's studio, just to show you that we all struggle with the same thing. Is it finished? Is it done? Should I paint over it? And take a look. Just to show you, not everybody has an easy time of pulling their art together right away. It's more normal that you don't. So here I am visiting my friend Susie Zoll in her studio, and while I was working today, Susie came down and said she had some pieces that weren't working for her. This is one of them. It's kind of working for me. Look how good this is. Look at those great colors, the blue, that orange, and the orange scribbles. Oh my gosh. So I'm seeing it's headed in a really great direction. I actually think it could be done, but I'm not going to tell Susie that because she won't believe me. She will not listen. But that's the way it goes. Everybody gets to a spot when they're just not sure yet. And Susie is quite an accomplished artist. So, yeah, if it's happening to her, it's happening to you, and it's okay. But just give you a peek around her fabulous studio and all the stuff she has going on. Yeah. Keep at it. It'll show up. So I'm looking forward to getting back to the studio and working on these pieces. I'm loving all the textures and all the colors and everything that is showing up. And I will be sure to share it with you. I will share the steps of these 4 pieces as I go along in my studio sessions. So make sure to subscribe and show up and see what I'm up to. And yeah, don't be afraid to cover things over. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.